In this video, we're going to take a look at the most effective way to use Cashflow Manager in your practice with clients who are using Cashflow Manager. So particularly when you get their work in and you need to create financial statements, what's the best way to go about it and the most efficient, effective way as far as your practice is concerned? Now, I would always suggest, without doubt, that you actually get the clients to send you in a backup file or an export file that I'll show you a little bit later on, and you process the work in Cashflow Manager before you take the next step, which might be to use the reports out of Cashflow Manager or to import data out of Cashflow Manager into your general ledger program. And the reason I say that is because, as you know, Cashflow Manager is a program that has columns and rows. That makes it easy for the client to use because all the client needs to do is put in their day, their details, and then put the allocation into the right column. And as long as they get it right, then that makes your job easier as well. But when the file comes in, you're also able to see it in the rows and columns rather than having to go and search in the black hole of a general ledger somewhere where you've got to print out the reports and try and find what errors have been made. It's much easier to be able to go across in each month and skim across and see what your clients have done. Now, I'm sure that one of the things you do is that you recommend to clients that if they're not sure about something, we'll stick it in a sundry column and then you can do the allocations afterwards. And so one of the things that we might do is immediately go and look at the sundry outside VAT payments and have a look at what they've allocated into that column. And there's a couple of little tricks here that might help you as far as doing that. In this case, we can see them all on the screen because there's not many entries. But you know, if you click on the header, then what happens is that it will put the items together. Now, this has got an up arrow, so they're all together at the bottom. If I click on it again, then they'll all be placed at the top, and so you can actually see everything in one column together, and it doesn't matter what column it is. If you sort by supplier, it'll sort it in alphabetical order. If you sort via total bank payments, it'll give them to you in the number order. And once again, if we sort via our column that we're looking at, it makes it easy to look at things together. So here we've found that this is HMRC for VAT, so it should be in the VAT payments column. And these two are both wages, so they should be in the other column as well. So what we need to do first of all is come in here, and I would always recommend that you first of all do a backup. Secondly, well, you've got the backup if the client sent you in the file, but then do a bank reconciliation. And the reason that I suggest you do a bank reconciliation is so that you can see the outstanding information of outstanding payments or outstanding deposits here. And you've got the bank reconciliation information there if you need to redo it for any reason. So that would be the first thing that I would be doing. And then from there, you can go and go to the bank reconciliation and unlock the bank reconciliation. And then we can go and make our edits that we need to make. So let's go across here to the sundry VAT column. And that one's wages. So I just press delete key and move it across to wages. And I just press my down arrow there to go off the line because it's still balanced, so it lets me off. And then this one is sundry VAT payments to customs and excise. So now I press my down arrow, it's the last line in everything, so that's not going to actually allow me off. I can press my up arrow, or I could have pressed enter and then it would take me to the start of the line. So now that I've finished doing that, I'm just going to sort them back into day order, and I'm going to go back to bank reconciliation and click finish and lock my records again. And so that's how you would go about doing each of the edits that you might want to do. If there was something in money in, that all looks okay. So if there was in money in, you would do that at the same time. Go back to your bank reconciliation and lock it again. Okay, so we've finished our records. You do that for each of the months in the reporting period that you're looking at. makes it nice and quick and easy. And then you need to then determine, well, how am I going to take this information into my general ledger system? I guess one of the things that I would do first of all would be, no matter what the situation, I'd go and have a look at the trial balance. Now I've only got 1 month of information in there, so I'll just leave it with those dates, but you can change the dates this year, this quarter, custom dates. And let's have a look at the trial balance. So I click on preview, and first of all you'll notice that yes, the trial balance debits and credits agree. That's a good thing. And then you've also noticed down here that we have codes, and those codes are actually the codes from your general ledger system. So let's see how we actually look at that. If I come up here to the options area, then that will open up our options, and the first option here is the accountant general ledger format. So we only have 2 formats in here, ProCap, which is a CCH ProCap format, and generic. Generic, I understand, exports into Iris. But if you have any general ledger program that you would like us to incorporate in here, then we are quite happy to do it. The information that we need to know is what the fields are as far as the export is concerned, and any requirements as far as those fields are concerned. For example, it may have a header where the first line is the header information for the data. It may have minuses for credits, and particularly the order of the fields, but we can add any of that if we're provided with the information. So probably the easiest way to find that out is if you have a user guide manual for your general ledger software. It might have information about importing from third-party software, or alternatively, if you give us the contact details for your general ledger software manufacturer, then we can contact them as well. So here's the bank code, which is your bank account ledger code and your cash ledger code. Once you've set them up, then you can simply click save, and that now is formatting in that general ledger format. So you can then go in and check these codes and make sure they're okay. If you need to change any of those, then you would come in here into the customize columns area, and you simply click into the one that you want to change, and you can make the change and save. It's as easy as that. And then save those. Once you've got those, again, maybe check it again in your trial balance. But once you've made those changes, you're now ready to export in a format that can be taken into your general ledger program. So you need to select a file name, and we're just going to call it by the client name, Sample UK, and we'll call it 150330. And that's just the way I like to do things, by having the year, then the month, then the day. It makes it easy to actually have them in chronological order. So let's save that and click on the export button, and the export is complete. Now that export format, you may have noticed, is a comma separated value file, which means that you can open it up in Excel and have a look at it as well. It simply means that each of the fields is separated by a comma, and so if you're opening it in Excel, you just need to set it to that format. Okay, the next question is, well, how do we get the information from our client? Well, I would suggest that the main thing to do is to get your client to do a backup, and they simply create a backup and click on email file when backup complete. Now that's doing a backup into export. I'm just going to change that and put it into my data folder, and you'll notice the backup's got the date following it. Okay, and backup, and so now the backup's complete, and I can send it to my accountant, and that will open up in my Outlook folder, or whichever program I use. Now sometimes though, If a client has been using Cashflow Manager for a long time and has a lot of information in there, and particularly if they use Invoice Manager and have a lot of invoices in there, maybe the file is too large to be able to email. So how would you do that? Well, I guess one of the ways to do it in this day and age is to use one of the storage programs like Dropbox or Microsoft OneDrive, and the client can then save it to that area and then give you access. Or another way to do it, we use a website called hightail.com, HIGHTAIL.com, and that enables you to send large files from one person to another. So that's another good way to do it. Or alternatively, we have another option here in the file. So we click on File and Accountant Export and click on Export to Accountant, and we can select our date period, we can select our accounts that we want to send, and what this will do is it'll just select the Cashflow Manager accounts for the date period that you select. So in this case it's going to send 1 month through to my accountant for my records. So I would perhaps change that to April 2014 if this is my fiscal year. Click on Browse. It's going to Cashflow 9 data. It's creating the file with the time period that's in the file there, and you'll notice then it's called a .ec9. Now most backup files are a .bc9. B stands for backup, 9 stands for the version of Cashflow Manager that I'm using. Now, at the time that I'm doing this, version 9 actually hasn't been released yet in the UK, so I'm actually using a test version here. Yours might say .ec8, which means you open it up in Cashflow Manager version 8 and operate it in there. So that's the way you recognise what it is. Click on Save and Export, and the accountant export is complete. Okay, so what that actually does in the file, if I come in here to Money In, you'll notice there's a new red icon or padlock on all of these different sections. And what that's actually saying is, hey, the information for this month's been sent off to the accountant, and so you shouldn't make any changes to it. So that's what the red icon is there for. So we've finished now, the client's finished their work and they've sent it off to you. So what happens when you get it in your practice? So now I'm an accountant sitting in your practice and I want to work on the client's information. So I click on Cashflow Manager and open the program. Okay, so here we are, Cashflow Manager is now opened, and what I'm going to do is come up here and click on the Restore button, and I'm going to restore the file that my client has sent me through. So let's browse, and it's in the data folder, and the actual file that I'm looking for is not a .bc9, it's a .ec9. So I just change that selection, and there's the file that I've received from my client. So I open that up, and you can change where you want to save it to, and I restore that file. Okay, and so the file opens up for me, and I can now go in and make any changes that I want to that file in the same way that I described before. So let's just go and have a look here. And yes, I've already made those changes. So we changed the things from the sundry outside VAT payments to these columns. So that's something that you would do in your office if you've got the client's file in. And then when you've finished with that, you can then do the processing as we described before, either using the reports or the export out to your general ledger. There's no way in the world that I would get your client to do the export to general ledger, because there's too many things that can go wrong. They could have the wrong accountant general ledger format selected, they could have the wrong bank account code in there, they could have the wrong account codes for any of the columns. Plus, it's much easier for you to be able to see anything that the client has done and pick it up here using the rows and columns method of Cashflow Manager than going searching for it in your general ledger system. So that's what I'd recommend. You get a backup in from your client, either a normal backup or one of the accountant export backups, and then you do the processing from there, and then you do the exporting to your accountant general ledger format. And that way, I'm sure you'll find the most effective way to do Cashflow Manager in your practice.